Okay, I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for March 27th, 2023. Mayor Reichel, Mayor Pro Tem Knott, Trustee Britnell.
Here.
Trustee Klassen.
Here.
Trustee Flores.
Here.
Trustee Hanrahan.
Here.
Trustee Siebert. Then we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So Jeff, I guess I'll let you take it over and they can do nominations for a temporary chair for the evening.
Okay. In the town charter, in case of, under temporary chair, in case of the absence or disability of the mayor and mayor pro tem, the town clerk shall call the board to order and call the roll of members. Since a quorum has been found to be present, the board shall proceed to elect by majority vote of those present a temporary chair to serve as presiding officer of the meeting until the arrival of the mayor or mayor pro tem, at which time the temporary chair shall relinquish the chair upon conclusion of the business immediately before the board. I would say that in this case, neither the mayor or the mayor pro tem are expected to be here before the meeting's over, so I would expect the temporary chair would handle the meeting until its conclusion. So I think the thing at this point, you would just talk amongst yourselves about a method of selecting a temporary chair and then going through that process.
Anyone willing to be a chair, the temporary chair?
I'll do it if you guys can
do
suffer
it too,
through my
yeah.
incompetence.
Either or.
Either or. I'll nominate Derek to be a temporary chair.
I can second it. Aye.
Do we have, who calls the vote?
All in favor? Aye.
Well, normally the mayor would call.
Want me to call the vote?
Yeah, if you want to do that, do good work, Sheila.
Okay. Trustee Britnell.
Aye. For Derek.
Trustee Klassen.
Yeah. Aye.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
Trustee Hanrahan.
Aye. Can't say nay, that would just be ass.
Congratulations.
I always wanted to be a chair. What is this for? Has anybody ever used it?
Just in case. You never know.
Gotta look the part.
In case people get unruly, you gotta, yeah.
So I can just go on to the next meeting or the next item on the agenda?
Bingo.
Okay. Thank you all in advance for your patience. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Persons desiring to make public comment on items not on the agenda shall activate the raise hand function in the meeting program. For persons who participate in the meeting by telephone, they should send an email. Sheila, do we have any voicemails or messages?
No, I did not hear from anyone today.
Are there any raised hands in the meeting? Or in the Zoom? Sorry.
I do not show any raised hands.
Did anybody
No one signed
in?
in. Is there anybody here that wants to?
Did anybody wish to make a public comment about anything that's not on the agenda this evening? If so, you need to sign in.
Guess not.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the March 13th, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting, including resolution number 9, series 2023, a resolution supporting the grant application for Department of Local Affairs Energy and Mineral Impact Assistance Grant in the amount of $767,325 for a total project cost of $1,534,650 in order to offset the costs associated with the installation of a new water main under the Union Pacific Railroad and Interstate 70 within the town of Silt, Garfield County, State of Colorado, as well as approval of the 2023 intergovernmental agreement for mosquito control with Garfield County. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the agenda?
Nope. I would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by Trustee Clausen, seconded by Trustee Brentnall. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Do any members of the board have any conflicts of interest this evening?
No, sir.
None here.
Any agenda changes? Jeff, Sheila?
Yes. We'd like to add an agenda item for later in the agenda to hear from Silt Energy Development LLC. They're the company that is proposing to purchase the lot we have at the town owns at 1555 River Frontage Road, and we'd like to hear from them what it is they plan to do with that lot. And they'd like to let you know before you go into executive session to discuss the offer, the real estate offer. And that would probably best to be done sometime right before that executive session, possibly even after the updates from board comments.
I was going to ask if we should do it before administrator, staff, and
We
board
could do that,
comments,
too.
where it's sort of lined up with the other agenda items
we can do
from
that.
other parties.
We can do
Does
that.
anybody have an issue with that?
No.
So it would be at just before the February 2023 financials, so 8:40,
Sounds good.
and they're here?
I think they're going to be on.
Oh, they're in Zoom, okay.
And the Realtor will be joining us then too.
And they are called the Silt.
Silt Energy Development LLC, I believe.
Okay. That's agenda changes. Next item on the agenda is the Silt Water Treatment Plant Construction Manager at Risk Contract Award, and I will turn this over to Administrator Lehman.
Thank you. Trustee.
You can call me whatever you
Henry.
want.
I
It
was
won't,
trying-
you can't offend
Mr.
me, I
Mayor?
assure you. Call me Ralph.
And I have misplaced my. Huh. Well, I must have left that on my desk. So let me see if I can grab one here.
We need some of that intermission music.
Jeopardy music.
Silt Water Treatment Plant Construction Manager at Risk. Contract award, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sorry about that. So you'll recall that we had decided on this process for construction of hiring a CMAR, a construction manager at risk. By the way, Toby, you want to come up and sit up here?
Yes.
Sorry. And you're going to have to remind me of your last name because I've...
Read.
Toby Reed is representing,
Darn it.
thank you,
Construction.
Garney Construction. Maybe I should go to my desk, but anyway.
Also, Jared Baker is on the, sorry. Jared Baker is on the Zoom meeting with Garney as well.
Okay, great. And I'll let them introduce themselves here in a minute. But you'll recall that we wanted to go down this road of bringing the CMAR on well before, we are applying for this grant with the State Revolving Fund to get our numbers as close as we can to what we believe to be real numbers for the water treatment, or the water treatment plant. So I think I'll turn it over to Toby and Jared and let them kind of talk a little bit more about it, and Trey and I will interject as necessary.
Okay. My name's Toby Reed. I'm with Garney Construction. And Jared?
I did make him a co-host so he can unmute himself.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jared Baker. Also work with Toby at Garney Construction. We'll be involved on this project and excited to work with the town on this one.
So a little background is we proposed on the project. We have a lot of other activity on the western slope, and this project's a really good fit for our company and for our group. And I think with what Dewberry has kind of the direction they're going, and I think Trey, you may agree that seems like a pretty good fit. I mean, the treatment process, I think it's going to be good for the town.
Yes, and for some more, we had two companies that sent in qualification. It was Garney and another company called Hensel Phelps. Both two outstanding companies. Either way we went, we were going to have a good. It would have been a good result. Trustee Seifert and Mayor Pro Tem Knott sat on the committee with myself, Jeff, Amy, the two Dewberry engineers, and Tony Zancanella, that went through all of the proposals and interviewed both Garney and Hensel Phelps for this position. And then we came together, and after some lengthy debates and such of that nature, we proposed to bring Garney to you guys for approval. And I believe it's in the packet. Some of the bigger points that we found in going with Garney was this is what they do, water and wastewater plants. They currently have one going in Grand Junction. Toby lives in Glenwood, and he's going to be involved with this project from the start, so he's close. And also Garney has built a water plant like has built a few water plants that use the ballasted flocculation like we are looking at. And their gentleman, Garrett, that starts the plants? No.
Jefferson.
Jefferson, thank you. God. Jefferson works with them, and he will be the gentleman that'll be here when we start this plant. He has an A license, and they have started like 10 water plants in the last 3 years, give or take. So they understand what it takes to start one up and make sure it's running right and all the bugs are out of it before they leave.
And maybe a couple of quick things just to add to it. Thank you for picking up for my fumble there, Trey. The CMAR process is really expected, the CMAR is expected to come in and really collaborate with the engineer and with our staff, not to drive the project. The town staff will still be intimately involved in trying to understand, looking at bids. It's a very transparent process. It's one of the things that these guys really emphasized to us when we interviewed them, was that as bids come in from other suppliers and contractors or subcontractors, they won't even open those bids. They'll come to a group of folks first, including Trey, who will sit down and look at these as they work through the process of understanding what these costs are going to be. So it's a collaborative and transparent process. And like I mentioned, town staff is going to be really involved as we develop these cost models. And the other thing I wanted to mention is contracting with Garney at this point doesn't obligate the town to work with them as contractor, construction contractor. If we find it's not a match, we think it will be, but if for some reason it becomes apparent at some point along the process that we're not a match, then it doesn't obligate us to award the construction contract to them. What, Jared and Toby, what would you guys add to that conversation at this point?
You know, I think our experience, which we laid out in the proposal, and it's well documented, just with the alternative delivery is we're at 85% of that's what our business is. You know, Garney has been at the forefront of water and wastewater alternative delivery projects in the state and the country, and we have a lot to bring to the town of Silt. We're not a huge contractor. We still, you know, we will service the communities that need us, and we recognize that. And you know, we have a lot of experience that we bring to it, and I can't wait. Jarrett, what do you got?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that is, you know, experience with the design firm that you guys have on board. We have extensive experience working with Dewberry throughout the entire state of Colorado, which I think is an important feature to have on a collaborative delivery project like this. And then we also have extensive experience with the funding mechanisms that you guys are looking into to help fund the project, which those things come with some different things that you kind of got to go through. And we're dealing with that on the majority of our projects right now. So I think that experience, coupled with the construction and technical experience, just makes us a well-rounded team.
One last thing I would add is that Trey and I both got on the phone and via email and have spoken to several of the projects that Garney has worked with in the state and gotten a sense of. I mean, you know, the first question is, are these guys for real? Is this a real company? Do they really do this kind of work? And we found that they do. We also found that they're highly regarded. Some of the things that I really thought were valuable to hear was that once they get paid, it's not like you don't hear from them again. There's a couple of these, you know, smaller outfits like ours that 5-6 years later, they're still sending emails to them and making phone calls. Hey, can we, you know, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And Garney will continue to answer the phone. So I think that's really important. It was important for us to hear, too. Anything else on that?
No, that was about it. I think I covered everything that I can think of.
I mentioned in my my memo that it was a vigorous conversation, and you know, it was a good conversation. And your peers, Knott and Seifert, in the end, were on board with this selection. So I think we're just at this point just looking for a motion from you to accept the contract and allow us to contract with them. Of course, after you ask any questions that you might want to ask of the Garney representatives here tonight.
This looks real straightforward. And then I guess the money to pay for it would come out of the water fund?
Yeah, and at this point, you might recall too that because we were have been awarded the disadvantaged community status. There's $300,000 in design and engineering, so this could.
Oh, okay, okay, then that would be, all right.
I have a couple questions. How big companies Garney?
With, so nationwide, we have not quite 2,000.
We just broke 2,000, Toby.
All water, wastewater, or what else?
That's all we do.
That's all you do?
All water, wastewater.
So you definitely with 2,000 people, you have a giant span of GPM plants you've built from 100 or million 1 GPM to 50 GPM, or
From 30,000 gallons a day
yeah.
to several hundred million gallons a day.
And then Jefferson is your startup,
Yep.
and he's a contractor, or is he employed?
He's an employee.
Employee.
Yes.
And then with this contract, is Jefferson's, is this going to cover him for the startup, or is that a separate tab or separate contract?
So his startup activities will be in the direct cost of the work,
Okay,
of the construction.
of the construction part. Okay.
So that'd be if they were to award the construction part of it, then,
Right,
then he
yeah.
would be involved. Otherwise, if we went in another direction, he obviously wouldn't be because he wouldn't be part of that.
Right.
If we were to choose to go with somebody else to build the plant, actually.
Correct. I will say
Some of his time will be covered in that the number that you have there on your screen, because he is involved on the pre-construction side as well. So some of that will go to him providing input to design, working with operations, etc.
Yeah, so specifically, when we get to the scheduling and, okay, how much time do we need? Yeah, that's on the pre-construction side, that's where Jefferson will be.
Okay.
That'll be a line item
Yeah,
in that proposal when we get it.
yes.
And then Toby and Jared that's you guys are who we're working with? You two individuals, or there's going to be others?
Yes, Jared's pre-construction, and then I'll be working with Jared on pre-construction, and then I'll be the construction manager for the project itself.
And there will be others as well.
Yes.
Right.
It's not just
you
it's
two.
not just
During the pre-construction phase, obviously, I just wanted to throw. I mean, a lot of the number that of what goes into that 199,000 is estimating time as well, right? We're going to be providing estimates throughout the pre-construction phase, and a lot of that number comes from their time.
I have a couple of questions, but I want to
No,
make
go
sure
ahead.
you guys have a chance. You guys are the water experts, so I don't
Yes.
presume to know
I'm
that
good.
stuff.
I don't have any more questions.
Best guess or estimate, how much money have you been able to save on other projects as a percentage, not as a singular dollar value, but as a percentage of the total cost of a project? Given the broad scale that you've worked on, from 30,000 gallons up to hundreds of millions, what's your average amount of net savings?
There was one in the proposal, and Jared's probably better suited to answer this one because I don't have it memorized as a percentage. Cherokee, Jared.
Yeah, so that one I believe was not quite 10% of what they originally thought it would be. The question is, it's a little difficult to answer just given the different complexities of the jobs that we work on. So I mean, our goal is obviously as much as possible, but it really gets down to: are we building a greenfield site? Are we working on an existing facility? What equipment are we using? Can we get the good numbers from our vendors and suppliers? So it's kind of hard, and a lot of the VE ideas also come from operational flexibilities and wants versus needs, which obviously comes from your operations staff and Trey and his team there. So it's kind of a difficult question to answer because it takes some give and take on both sides.
Got it. But even at 5%, be what, 1.4 million or over $1 million in savings if we're being optimistic, and the cost of potentially realizing that savings is $199,000. That makes good fiscal sense to me. A related question. How does your contract incentivize you to save the town money? How are our incentives aligned in terms of cost savings?
Relationships. We, like I said, you know, we work in all different sorts of communities, all different sizes of communities. And we don't anticipate this to be the last plant we build or the last work we do. The incentive, I mean, it's an open book, completely collaborative process. So you're going to see what's in this number. Mm-hmm. So the incentive, I mean, it's not really, the incentive is our fee, and everything, you're going to see all the numbers laid out right in front of you.
But there was nothing in your proposal that said, like, we expect a minimum savings of X and a max of Y. None of that ballparking was done.
The biggest incentive for them is when they leave here and they go to their next job and that job calls us, what do you think of Garney? They were outstanding, or run for the hills. You know, I mean, that, you know, on both ends of the spectrum.
Paying for Trey's loyalty is what we're paying for.
Well, that's part of it. But
yeah, I mean, that's a lot of it for them, is to do a good job. So we are that reference for them because, like you said, all they do is water and wastewater.
And it sounds like that was a large part of the quote-unquote vigorous conversation, was that reputational standing and knowing that these guys are good at what they do.
Yes.
And it'll look better for you guys to save us 30%.
Trey will have a parade for you. He'll work with Nicole on the event. It'll be great.
It'll look better for you.
Yeah, for sure.
It all looks good in a proposal, but it's really, you know, we're here to do the job and do it right.
And I'm sure you guys know, as with other municipalities, we know we need the plant. We know we need the type of plant that's been designed, but the cost is a real challenge for us. We're a small rural community. So anything you can do with regard to helping us out there is very much appreciated.
We do very well at value engineering. We have the group that, you know, our directors have all been in the field. Our senior PMs have all been in the field. And if I have a question, or if Jared has a question during, you know, some pre-construction back and forth, all we do is pick up the phone, say, hey, what do we do in this project in Florida, or, you know, in Colorado Springs, or whatever. We have a huge amount of resource to help us with that.
Being in the industry, which way are you seeing the trend for cost for materials?
Of late, and go into just the scales that are published, there's some slowdown. Mm-hmm. More stabilizing, but not getting better.
Right.
Not lowering.
Kind of plateauing.
I'd say plateauing is probably a good word. Is that, how would you characterize pricing, Jared?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, we were seeing an exponential increase for a lengthy period of time, and that has gone away. I would say plateauing is a good word for it. I think the biggest challenge now is lead times, though that is something that we haven't seen get better as much as we'd like, right? We're still seeing lead times for equipment be longer than we're used to seeing. But the pricing has somewhat stabilized.
So part of this contract, if we source materials now and the price drops, do we get the price drop, or do we we're stuck with the prices that we committed to the earlier dates?
Well, that's going to be tough to quantify. when you're talking a major piece of gear, because you're not going to go back out to price it. We're gonna price it and we're gonna go.
Right.
Just because of, like Jared said, the lead times. That mostly electrical equipment, they're crazy.
Right.
But with commodities, that's things we watch really close. Concrete, aggregates, middle division commodities, we call it. There could be savings. We obviously want to watch that really close and manage the risk for all of us. Because if we save, you save. That's part of that open book process.
Right.
No, I do have a question for Jeff. So this is supposed to be complete in November of 23. How does that fit into the whole, applying for the financing and all that?
Well, we'll go to the state revolving loan fund on June 15th with what we have, and I think we're anticipating being between 60 and 90% at that point.
Yes.
Okay.
And at that point, we should have with the help of Gurney, we should have a pretty solid number of what we think this plant's gonna cost.
Okay.
And then again, like we said earlier, we can adjust that down as we get closer to the bonds being sold. So as we work closer to that 90, 100%, if that comes down, we can adjust that with the state. Before they sell the bonds, we just can't go higher.
Okay.
But this timeline is doable for Garni as the contractor.
Yes. Yep. It's a heavy lift. It's going to be a heavy lift for all of us, because there's going to be a lot of workshopping done, but our estimators are ready to go.
And how will the board receive updates on your progress? Will they all be through you, Trey, or will either or both of you gentlemen be joining us periodically? What does that look like?
Yeah.
You will probably get an update from me at every board meeting on the process, and possibly emails in between board meetings if something major comes up. And then as needed, we will have Toby or Jared with us here at these board meetings.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
I don't either.
I guess, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Silt Water Treatment Plant Construction Manager at Risk contract award to Garni Construction.
If I could interrupt briefly, at some point you might want to ask if there's anyone present who might, citizens who might want to weigh in.
Is this a public hearing?
No?
We can still do that.
But,
We can't? Okay. Rookie. Apologies.
well,
Sorry,
me
yeah.
too. I should have done it
I know,
before
yeah.
the motion. But because we have a public comment period for things that are not on the agenda. So things that are on the agenda, you would ask for public comment during that.
And I should note the time.
No, this
not
is
that
not
official?
a public, yeah, it's not a public hearing, so you don't need to do that.
Does anyone here from the public have any comments, concerns, criticisms?
Questions?
Please. Questions?
The contract for
Sir, if you could, yeah, maybe.
Come up to the
maybe
table
switch
so
chairs
that
here
we can record you.
And just identify yourself and where you live and
My name's Chris Hall. I live at 1100 Stony Ridge Drive. My question is the contract that's for 199. You brought up a good thing with product or material and equipment and all that stuff. We're coming in at $199,000. Is that a lock-in, or when prices go up, do we have to pay more, or is this
That price is a lock-in for their pre-construction services.
so
This
that's
has nothing to do with the construction of the plant. This is just using Garni to value engineer this project as we design the project and get us a cost-based estimate on what this project's gonna cost. So that number's solid and has nothing to do with the construction of the plant,
So nothing.
the actual work.
So nothing with equipment, material,
No.
nothing.
Would it be fair to say it functions as an audit?
You could
More
say
than
it that
that.
way, yeah.
But
I
that's,
mean, it's more than
as
an
it relates
audit,
to the
but-
finances, that they're effectively looking at it and value engineering, auditing the costs, and trying to reduce the costs wherever possible.
Gotcha.
So the engineer has estimated the cost. These guys are gonna come in and use real-world experience to figure out what those costs are actually likely to be.
And see where we
That
can
will-
cut costs.
And that will form their bid, the price that they're willing to do the job for.
Gotcha. I'm just used to, I mean, home construction, people are locking in at a certain price
Yeah.
of the wood and materials and all that stuff, so it doesn't jump up or it doesn't go down or whatever. He's saying, well, he made a comment of equipment may be more, or it might go up, or the piece, the electric or whatever might be a little more. I'm just trying to find out if we're gonna lock into this number, or if it's gonna jump up from 28 million to 35 million.
Once, to answer your question, once we get to where we make the loan application with the state revolving fund, Garney will provide us with a gross maximum price of this plant. From that point, it can go down, but it will not go up. If it goes up over that amount, that's where the manager at risk comes in and say they estimated at 28 million, just use round numbers, and it comes in at 29 million, Garney's on the hook for that other $1 million.
That's my question, basically.
Yeah.
I mean,
We'll have that number in November too.
That's
That's
a
what we
free
locked
for all
in.
of like
Yeah.
how much money, like, oh, we're gonna bid here, but then.
No, we'll have a price,
Not
that
to
point.
exceed, right?
a not to exceed price.
That's a good question. Thank you.
Of course, thank you. Any other comments from the public? If you wouldn't mind sitting in the chair and identifying yourself?
Sure. Evening, gentlemen. I just moved to town here a couple months ago. I live just down the street, 330 North 6th Street.
What's your name?
My name's Brian Madigan.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet all you. I just learned about this project a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of chatter going on everywhere about it. I just had one question for you, sir, or for you, Jared. What percentage of work do you guys do in-house? What do you sub out?
Oh, great question. I'll let Jared.
Yeah, I can answer it because I think I don't know if Toby's near a mic. We're a self-performing general contractor. So on a typical plant project, we strive to self-perform between 60 and 70% of the overall project. Our big scopes of work are concrete, yard pipe, mechanical. We'll install the equipment. We'll get all that started up and commissioned. So yeah, we try to be between 60 and 70% when it's all set.
So would you say your major subs are electrical, excavating, things like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, electrical's our biggest one.
That's your biggest sub out. Who's your most common sub with that in past projects?
It depends on the region. We use different subs all over the country. We've got contacts here in Colorado that we'll bring to the table for the town to work with and evaluate on who makes sense to fit the project. But we've got contacts all over the state.
And forgive me for my ignorance on this one. I'm just a man who loves fishing. I have a feeling that this is obviously somewhere right here on the Colorado River. It's going to be feeding back into it, right? What kind of a record do you guys have on taking care of environmental concerns? Making sure that you're not going to mess up my waters during construction.
We fish this river too. We're not gonna harm it either. So environmental concerns are obviously something that are a big deal in all of our projects. References that were talked about at the beginning of this discussion can be called, all of our projects, water and wastewater, are typically along some sort of body of water, whether it's a reservoir, river, lake, stream, whatever it is. So something we're very used to, and our clients have seen us perform well there.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us and the great questions. Would you like to start again?
Motion still stands. All right, I'll repeat myself. Okay, Mr. Chair, I would like to approve the Silt Water Treatment Plant Construction Manager at Risk Contract Award to Garney Construction.
Second.
Motion was presented by Trustee Clausen to approve the Silt Water Treatment Plant Construction Manager contract to Garney Construction. That was seconded by Trustee Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Congratulations. Thank you, guys.
Look forward to working with you guys.
Thanks, Toby.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jared.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right, next item on the agenda is the tier water rate discussion, and I will turn this over to Administrator Lehman.
Well, in our conversations about water rates over the last few months, we've been kind of narrowing in, I think, on some of the rates as they maybe should be. And so the board asked us to provide an updated water rate study. We've got Jim Mann online to talk about his latest efforts. And I think I'll just turn it over to him. There is some information in the packet, in the summary there, but I think we're probably going to be covering a lot of that as Jim goes through the presentation. So I'll just introduce Jim, who you know, and let him take it away. Jim?
Thanks, Jeff. Good evening. I'll kind of run through some numbers, just kind of a little background information, where we are. We've put together several options and for some consideration. I don't think there's anything that needs to be acted on immediately, but we're looking to continue to get feedback from the Board of Trustees as we refine the numbers, so that we make sure that at the end of the day, we do arrive at a concept that is has the support of the Board of Trustees, and that we're not going in the wrong direction. So if we can go to the next slide, and I apologize, I know some of these numbers get small on a screen, but there's a couple of points, you know, that we wanted to just kind of lay out there as you consider and deliberate on the ultimate rate structure that we come up with. But when you look at the overall usage in the system, about 94% of usage falls within the base rate and tier 1 usage calculations. And if you recall, your base rate includes up to 2,000 gallons, and then tier 1 is the next 4,000 gallons after that. So 91% of the revenues fall in that tier or that base rate, with then just 3% picking up into that next tier of usage. When you look at the residential only, the base rate gallons, about 43% of the gallons that are used fall in that 2,000, that first 2,000 category, and then an additional 42% is in the next rate tier. So, 85% of your residential water use falls in those first two tier classes. And I think the purpose that we wanted to, include here is that the majority of customers, especially on the residential side, fall within that base rate and then that tier 1. So as we look at, what the rate structure is ultimately going to be, when you think, well, we want to make sure people that are using a lot of water pay a lot, the vast majority of your customers are falling in that those early, the base rate in tier 1. And so if we go to the second page, those numbers are based on what we are calling our test year, which was from November 2021 through October 22. It was a full year's worth of usage that's what we're using as kind of our base. Our connections that we look at were based on October 22. Obviously, there's probably been 1 or 2 taps that have occurred since then, but that's our base number that we're working from. When we consider some of our options, and we've got several options that include the construction of the new water treatment plant, but we also include one that says, all right, we're not doing anything at this point. What would happen? And so when we look at a base plan with status quo, where we wouldn't really do any treatment plant improvements, we are looking at probably a situation where there would be significantly limited growth. I think the recommendation ultimately would be that the town would need to put a moratorium on growth going forward, because there just isn't the capacity and the system redundancy and reliability to really be expanding the number of users that you have currently on the system without some improvements. And then, when we look at the options where we're looking towards the construction of a new treatment plant, we're utilizing the growth numbers as they were contained in the town's water master plan. Another factor that we look at is we recommend from a financial perspective that the town would operate with a reserve that would be equal to 6 months operating expenses plus the following year's debt payment. And we don't necessarily say you got to get there right away. We actually have it planned out in all the scenarios that we have run that you would get there in a 10-year period. That if we were to say, all right, we're going to get there next year, we would have to increase rates rather significantly, because you're generating a lot of extra cash just to put aside. And we know that that's not something that's a realistic solution. So we plan to arrive at that recommended fund balance in a 10-year period.
So you go to the next. There is a typo in your board memo. It says 2023. It was meant to say 2032. Sorry, Jim.
No worries. We also are looking to maintain the current rate structure. I think in comments that were made by some of the trustees in previous meetings, that there was a desire to maintain the structure where seniors would pay 50% of the base fee, but the same volumetric rates. We're also maintaining the current rate structure as it relates to the pressure zone, which by ordinance, I think it is 200% of the base fee, and again, the same volumetric rates. Options 1 through 3, and I think we will talk a little bit about a hybrid option 4 that we have put together, but they all include a new wastewater treatment plant, additional water storage, and annual main replacement. And right now, all the numbers that we're talking about are based upon a water treatment plant that's estimated to cost about $28 million, and that there would also be some principal forgiveness from the state revolving loan fund. We've at this point been using $5 million, but we understand that there is the potential that there's going to be some additional dollars that would be available to the town due to its economic status. So if we go to the next page, you adopted new rates as of January 1, 2023. These rates don't necessarily account for an annual main replacement, doesn't include any new debt payments, really doesn't amount to any drop in bulk water sales. And we kind of, to start out with, assume that you'd still be able to maintain some annual tap fees commensurate with recent history. And what this does is it produces about a $200,000 deficit on an annual basis. And we did some calculation off the test year's usage, and we came up with an average residential customer using about 3,795 gallons. And when you apply that to the base rate as well as the next volumetric rates, your average residential user is paying about $54.50 a month for water in the community. If we go to the next page, and one of the things that we wanted to kind of highlight was if you were to operate the utility where we would recommend you operate the utility, and if we can advance the slide, if we were to operate where we think you should be operating, you would need to increase the existing rates again up to a base rate of $42.83 per thousand or $85.65, and then increase the volumetric, the tiered structure for the next 4,000 after the first 2,000 that is included with the base rate to $5.15, and then we incrementally go up $1 for each of the next tiers, and that still maintains the tier structure that you're using. This would not be necessarily covering a new plant, but it would cover annual main replacement because you do need to maintain the existing infrastructure. There would be pretty limited future tap revenues that would come in simply because, again, the capacity of the plant and its age, you don't necessarily want to be in a position where you're exacerbating the problem by adding a lot of new customers. So there would be a fall off in terms of the revenues that are received from tap fees. Because you're increasing the per thousand gallon rate, we anticipate that there would be about a 25% drop in bulk water sales. And again, we would kind of achieve that revenue reserve target in 2032. But the average residential user's cost would jump to about $95 a month, which is it's roughly a $40 increase from where you are currently. That's just to operate the utility in a financial manner that is going to provide enough revenues coming in that you're able to maintain the system in a financially sound manner, and also then be able to handle minor hiccups along the road. It's going to produce enough reserves. So then we get into the next several options. Option one is really using the exact same structure that you use now in terms of a tiered rate structure. First 2,000 gallons are included in the base. You'll note that we propose that going to $64 per thousand. The rates per thousand gallons we have at $6.05, and then we go up $1 per each tier. The average customer would jump to about $139 a month. This again, and I'll reiterate it on all these, is it accounts for a new water treatment plant, it accounts for increased storage, and it accounts for an annual main replacement program. The annual tap fees that would be coming in is, I think we talked about this several meetings ago, but that tap fee would be about $13,000 a tap, and you would have a number of taps coming in based upon the growth projections that were included in the water master plan. Now, we do account for a much larger loss in bulk water sales. We're at a loss of about 50% of bulk water sales just because of the increased costs. And again, we do meet the recommended reserve target in 2032. But and we'll summarize this on one slide so we can go back to it and then have some discussion on it. The second option that we looked at, if we can go to the next page, was what if we modified your tiered structure to say, hey, we're going to include the first 6,000 gallons in the base rate so that we weren't necessarily relying on the volumetric rate nearly as much. That, I think one of the things that it does, and we can talk about it a little bit more, is it reduces your what we would call a conservation rate structure, because if you're paying for 6,000 gallons, people may be more apt to use 6,000 gallons than if they were limited and had to pay more of a volumetric fee. Again, with this rate structure, you've got the water treatment plant, increased storage, water main replacement, same deal on the tap fees coming in. We're still counting on about a 50% drop in bulk water sales, and again, we get to a reserve requirement in 2032. The average residential user, similar to the option one, is about $138 a month going forward for that customer that's using the 3,795 gallons. I mean, one thing you'll note is they all come out about the same, because we have to generate about the same money. And it doesn't matter how you slice and dice it, you're still going to end up pretty close to the same point. So if we go to option 3, this one we looked at a little differently, and we modified the tier structure, not just to reduce the number of tiers that you had, but we modified it in this example to say, all right, what if we just had a base rate and it didn't include any gallons of water, and then everybody was subject to paying for every gallon of water they used? This would eliminate, and actually we talked about eliminating the standby category in all these options, simply because as a utility, there's a cost to being connected, because you as a utility have to be able to provide your customers water whether they're there or not. And so we're suggesting that the town may want to eliminate the standby category. I think it would probably affect somewhere between 20 and 30 customers on average in any given month. But because that customer is entitled to turn the tap on anytime they want, you as a utility have to be prepared to produce the water and get it to them. So having a standby category is somewhat counterproductive to the overall process. Similar to the other option 1 and option 2, it's the water treatment plant, main replacement, water storage. Annual tap fees are based upon the growth projections included in the master plan. Again, here we're anticipating a loss of 50% of the bulk water sales, and we're still getting to that 2032 reserve requirement. Here we're looking at an average residential cost of a little over $142 a month. And these vary based upon how you're collecting the dollars. And if we go to the next page, or 2 pages, I think everybody can read summary very quickly. When you look at the various options, and status quo, just as a reminder, is if you didn't move forward with the construction of a new water plant, that's about the rate structure that you would need to generate adequate cash in the utility going forward. So you're looking at a monthly bill of about $95. Options 1, 2, and 3 all vary in terms of how they collect the revenues, but it's roughly a $40 to $45 increase above and beyond. Option 2 departs from options 1 and 3 a little bit more, simply because you're allowing, under that base rate, a much larger volume of water to be taken. And so most of your revenues are being generated right off the base rate. And if you go to the next page, you can see how those percentage of where the revenues are coming in falls. Your base plan and option 1, which basically operates in this, on the same vein in terms of the same tiered structure, roughly, somewhere between 83 and 85%, or 93 and 95% of the revenues are coming from the base and Tier 1. In option 2, the base rate is making up a little over 97% of all the revenues that are received by the utility. Option 3, you're departing a little bit by having a lower base rate and putting a lot more emphasis on what people are going to use on a volumetric basis. So it drops the base rate percentage of revenues down to a little less than 82%. So you become much more reliant on people actually using water. There are benefits to any one of these going forward, but this is just kind of part of the exploratory process of what is going to be palatable to you as the elected officials making the decisions at the end of the day. So if we go to the next page, we've got just a bunch of takeaways that we wanted to make sure that we're out there. 91% of the revenues are generated from the base rate. 79% of the water usage falls in that base one and base and tier 1 categories. Your current rate structure is producing about a $200,000 loss on an annual basis. So you really need about a $40 a month average increase per residential equivalent to operate the utility in a sound way. Everything beyond that is what it's going to cost to build a new treatment plant and then do the other water storage improvements. If we go to the next page, I think, kind of to summarize, options 1 through 3 cover the water treatment plant, cover future water storage. They do it in a slightly different way when you boil it down. Option 1 is basically the same tier structure as you have right now. Option 2 modifies the base structure to include 6,000 gallons and then has a much more limited tier structure. Option 3 moves you away from having any water or any usage included in the base rate, and you move into a volumetric, more centric system where people are really being charged for the gallons that they're using. So if you go to the next page, I think Jeff alluded to this in his memo, that we were kicking around the concept that we may want to look at changing the tiers. And so we did a little deeper dive into rate class 101, which is the main residential class. And what we discovered when we looked at that class is that our original average on the entire system for residential showed that the average user was 3,795 gallons. When we looked at the rate 101 class and we applied the average, which is the average customer, it actually jumped to 5,301. When we go back and look at the median, which means half the people are paying less and half the people are paying more, then we're at 3,817. So we recalculated everything so you guys could see what the impacts are of not only options 1, 2, and 3, but this hybrid 4, which includes, base rate, first 4,000 gallons not included in the base rate, but charged volumetrically, 4,001 to 8,000 gallons charged at a rate, and then anything over 8,000 gallons charged at another rate. Here's what we, came up with a cost. And looking at those overall average user, which is the 3,795, it ranges somewhere between $138 a month to $142 a month. I'm sorry, $135 a month to $142 a month. When you look at the median user, which it really is not that much different from our overall average, it ranges from $135 a month to roughly $138. or 142, I'm sorry. And then when we look at the average rate user in 101, it ranges from the low of 137 to the high of 151. And they all fall in slightly different categories. And they're, each of these has positives to them. I think, as the Board of Trustees is looking at making a decision, there's a couple things that you may want to consider. Right now, you have more rate tiers than most of your sister cities in the area. That causes a fair amount of extra work from a staff perspective and probably isn't overly necessary. If you modify your base rate category to include a greater amount of gallons, you may be in a position where you've taken some of the conservation incentive away and people are going to use more water. If you move towards a system where the base rate doesn't include any gallons, you're actually bolstering the fact that you've got a conservation rate structure, which means people are going to be more apt not to leave the tap running when they're brushing their teeth if they're paying for every gallon, and it's not just included in the base rate. So there's a number of factors that the board can consider when looking at the rate structure. Unfortunately, we have to end up roughly at the same dollar amount in terms of the generation of revenues. It's just how we get there is going to be slightly different depending upon some of the direction that the board gives, looking at how we structure the ultimate rates. I know the board is still very much interested in making sure that we can reduce the cost of the plant, get more grant monies, get more assistance, so to speak, so that the cost of that plant comes down. And one thing I would, remind everybody, and we had it on the earlier slide, is this is based upon a $28 million water treatment plant. It's with approximately $5 million of assistance. More assistance is going to reduce these cost saving measures. I think somebody mentioned that Trey's going to throw a parade if they can knock the price down by 25%. If you knock the price down 25%, I'll help out with the parade. But that would certainly bring all these costs down significantly from where they are right now. I think the other piece that's out there, we know that you're eligible for some principal forgiveness. We've estimated that, and it's been suggested that it should be about $5 million. But I understand that there's some additional dollars that the town has qualified for that will again bring these overall costs down. But as much as anything, it's really starting to look at where you want to fall in terms of a rate structure. I think there is some value to the hybrid 4 because that captures most people in terms of the number of gallons in that first tier. You may, if you don't want to go to a situation where the base rate doesn't include any water, it may be that you set your base rate to include the base rate plus that 4,000 gallons, and then anything beyond that is charged on a volumetric rate. So there's a number of different things that we can look at going forward based upon some of your feedback. And with that, I will take a deep breath, and you guys can all shake your head going, I can't believe he talked so much and gave us that much information in such a short amount of time. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
I guess to start out with, to clarify for, the senior citizens out there, basically any one of these scenarios is roughly $70 for them.
Correct.
Okay. So I mean,
what are they paying now?
They're 50% of, so if it's $50,
27.
27, and they'll go up to 70, so a raise of $50.
Yeah.
We're also entertaining the thought of reducing their sewer base rate. Right now, they only get a 50% discount on the water base rate, and we're entertaining the thought of reducing the sewer base rate. And that right now would be about $42 possibly that would come off of their bill as well. So it wouldn't be that much of a hit for them.
Okay. Yeah, because everybody's going to take a hit, and especially them. So, anything
Right.
we can do to reduce that for them, that would be wonderful.
Right, it'd be about a $30 difference math-wise if we're able to reduce that sewer base rate.
Amy, I looked into a program that Colorado has, Low Income Household Water Assistance Program, or LIHWAP.
We are a vendor of that.
I
but
could not
as
figure
far as,
out if seniors were eligible.
Any household could apply, whether they're eligible or not, that it would be up to the state. But we are a vendor for them. But it is my understanding that April, like next month, is the last month it has funding for.
So they better move quickly.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Even April's the last month that they're going to be available to help.
Yeah.
right. Who knows? They may get more funding. But as far as the ARP dollars that they had received, it was only good until April of 2023.
And if there were some savings available there to our senior population, would that be in addition to the 50% discount, or would it simply offset from that 50?
So it would just be the state sending us money for their water bill, which would include, we are allowed to include water, sewer, and any late fees. So we have 9 people right now that are on that program that we get money from the state for. And each month we tell them what their balance is. If there's water, sewer, and penalties, we can include. Trash and irrigation we cannot include. So the state would reimburse, well, not reimburse, but pay the town their total water and sewer, including any penalty usage for the month. So it could potentially be $0.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just so I can clarify the math, so you're saying if we don't do anything, water rate should go up $40.
Correct.
And so, but if you subtract the 95 from, let's say the 140, that's like $45 for the water plant to everybody's bill. That number almost seems lower than what we originally talked. Or did we always talk about taking care of the 200,000 shortfall?
I think in all of our previous discussions, the $200,000 shortfall was always in there.
Okay.
It was always noted in there. We just never talked about it to
Okay.
make sure
All right, I just
you
wanted to
understood
clarify.
it was in there.
We always lumped it together in the
Yeah.
conversation.
Right, and I think it was a couple of meetings ago that Jim presented information that we were really operating at a deficit.
Okay.
He always had that in the figure. It just wasn't broken out where if you don't do anything, this is what you still need to start charging to make us whole.
Yeah. Yes, it's still shocking that we have that $200,000 shortfall, but, the wastewater fund's been covering it for, how many years has this been
That and grants.
going on? With that shortfall.
I don't
Forever.
That's just the way that the things have been accounted for. And Amy can talk probably a little bit more about that. But
Uh-huh.
we allocate all of our activities to water and waste. Water and wastewater are all part of the same enterprise fund. We have one fund that has both functions in it. And when we allocate expenses, Trey's guys go out and fix a water leak, or they go out and fix a sewer leak, those things are calculated at 50% each. notwithstanding, not including what they would actually cost the fund. So, and then the income, the revenue, is calculated basically the same way, despite the fact, I think we charge a little bit more for sewer, wastewater services. So but they all come into the same pot of money and then allocate it out. So this was the first time that we really did I think, an in-depth look at what they really cost. And Jim's done, obviously, all the work on that with Amy to calculate what those numbers really are. And
Okay.
so this is the first time I think the town's really discovered that it's operating the water. If we had two funds, water fund, wastewater fund, we would have known this a long time ago.
Okay.
And you would have been able to make adjustments. But that was never done until now, when we've needed to know exactly what that is.
So that'll be broken out going forward?
Not unless we do two separate funds, essentially. I mean, we will try to more accurately reflect that in the budget, like our debt payments for the bonds that we currently have for the water and wastewater upgrades that we did 15 years ago. Historically, it's been the water paid 50%, the wastewater paid 50%. It's actually about 70-30. So going forward, we'll reflect that in the budget process. But it's always been water pays 50%, wastewater pays 50%. But when Jim started looking at these numbers and we actually pulled up the bond paperwork from 2005 and looked at what was actually being financed, 30% of it was water, 70% of it was wastewater.
So we will reflect that in the budget going
yes.
in the future.
Yes, it just hasn't been accurately reflected because historically we've just cut it down the middle since 2005.
Oh, okay. Is there any benefit to having two separate enterprise funds, or just easier to have one?
Setting it up would take a little time. It's more work only because it's two funds, but it's not a significant amount of work. I don't know how we would go about setting up an enterprise fund, I'm sure, or an additional enterprise fund. I'm sure we'll have to come to you with resolutions. And is that something we have to take to a vote of the people, Sheila, or?
I don't know. I've never been through that before, I don't believe, so I'd have to research that.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's a conversation for a later date. I was just curious, short answer. But
short answer, once we get it set up, it wouldn't be a significant amount of work because it's the same line items. It would just be new numbers. Yeah. Instead of 005, it'd be 00 something for the water fund and 00 something for the wastewater fund.
It'd be more accurate to be able to track costs associated with water versus wastewater.
And that's what I was kind of leaning toward, better accuracy.
Yep.
I'm not trying to make more work, but I'd like to have better accuracy.
Well, and I think that the bulk of it would just be setting it up.
Okay. And then what's the standby rate currently again?
Half. So like the snowbirds, they pay half the half the base rate for water, half the base rate for sewer. They can discontinue their trash, but they pay 100% of the irrigation because that's a yearly fee. And they're still watering their grass even when they're, not at home or whatever. So, but that's between, like Jim said, 20 and 30 people per year. And those are people that have second homes.
Okay, and how do the empty lots work again? Do they pay us standby or?
If they have purchased a tap, they do. They pay
Okay.
standby rates.
Okay, but if there's like a water service to the lot, but nobody's purchased the tap, then they don't pay anything.
Right, because we're not obligated to supply water if they haven't had
Okay,
a tap
okay.
purchased.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And the only other questions I have down where it shows all of the numbers, you know, in the account, you know, for the, I guess the cash flow chart. What exactly does other entail? Because it's like $37,000 a year.
What page are you looking?
I'm looking at, the 16 on this. Or I guess it's on page 17 and 18 also.
Oh, in the status quo recommended cash flow, the heading.
17.
Yeah.
18.
It says, underneath water tap fees, it says other. What does other entail?
Let me answer that. It's the catch-all from your line item budget that I just threw in another category.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
I could, if I pulled up your budget, I could tell you exactly what line items fell in there, but there are a few line items that just fall in there. Probably interest is one of them.
Penalty, interest
late
income.
fees, penalties.
Right, interest income from our bank accounts, penalties and interest from late fees. We also get a credit card revenue for when people pay their water bill using debit or credit cards.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then the hotel revenue.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
From the lease from the Holiday.
Okay. And then I'm assuming the only other question I had was administration. Does that covers, somebody to, do the billing and all that? Or does that entail other things?
That administration, I would assume, would be because we have water, wastewater admin, and then we have water operations and wastewater operations. And so that would, like payroll for Trey or he's the big payroll there. Training and registrations, travel and meals, audit expense, cell phones, things that cover both departments.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
As far as like technology upgrades, capital purchases that would be used for both water and wastewater. It's kind of the umbrella over both of them if it's going to benefit both funds.
Okay.
Not funds, departments within that fund.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Jim. That's all I have.
I have some questions, but
No, go for it.
nothing. There's some notes in the presentation about annual main replacements. Is that just a recurring cost every year forever?
Yes.
It's just effectively it's an operational.
Yes.
Got it. Is it reasonable to disregard the status quo numbers? We all agree that we need a water plant. I appreciate them being here for context, but practically speaking, that's not a viable option, correct?
No, but it's good to have that information so we can compare everything else to it.
And then I had a question for you, Jim. The hybrid 4 model with the 0 to 4,000, 4,000, 8,000, and then 8,001 plus, what are the percentages of the population that would fall into each of those?
I don't have that answer readily available. We only did the base calculations on the the rate class
101,
101.
which does not include seniors. It doesn't include commercial. That's just residential that is paying the normal rate.
I would have to, I haven't run those numbers. We certainly could get those numbers for you. I'd have to do some more math.
Well, we know the average is 33,795, so the majority of the population is going to be in 0 to 4,000, probably 2/3 to 3/4.
I think.
I think three quarters if we're averaging it out, because there aren't as many outliers with really high usage. How does the rest of the board feel about the hybrid model with the change of including 0 to 4,000 gallons in the rate and then charging more for 4,000 to 8,000 and 8,000 plus? I'm concerned about the optics of having a base rate that includes 0. Jim, you mentioned repeatedly that it encourages conservation, but I'm not sure people can conserve down to 0.
I won't disagree with you.
It seems implausible.
Yeah, the only theories I would say is to have the base rate with 0 is if there's a base rate from 0 to 2, and then we did a 4 to 6, and then a 6 and up or something like that, maybe as a structure. Because if some people fall into 0 to 2,000, it would give them that incentivize. That would incentivize conservation.
But if we said 4, that again is the majority
of the
majority
people are already at the 37. So if they're already there, then they're not really conserving. That's what they're at now.
But it encourages them to not go above it.
But
we
if
could
we do
add
0 to 2, then that may incentivize some more conservation, and then also give that a little bit more flexibility on the rate.
Yeah, I'd like to see a plan that promotes conservation, whatever
Agreed.
that may be. But, and you know, I do have kind of a question, comment, and you know, I mean, obviously this affects everybody, and I kind of feel that everybody needs to pay because we do have some accounts in town that aren't paying for water. Like the fire station for one, unless that's changed. And and I'm just saying it's a small amount, but I feel if the citizens have to pay it, we all have to pay it. I mean, everybody in town needs to pay it, and that includes like the fire station. I mean, does senior housing pay the water bill? And I guess it's more or less okay. All right, but I'm just saying, and I mean, I hate to say it, but the town administrator probably should pay a water bill too, just to kind of.
Now you're impacted.
Well, that comes out of our housing authority.
It's paid. Yeah.
Okay.
Finance. And the admin, the general admin fund, pays the water fund for water usage at town hall, at the shops. Any place that the town owns a building, the general fund pays the water fund.
Okay, so we are already getting income in for those. Okay, because I just didn't want to leave any stone unturned as a possible source of income to help finance.
But the firehouse still does not, and I don't know if that is just a gentleman's agreement or something that has just been in place for ever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that could be something in that. I mean, the firehouse is already operating under a shoestring budget, from what I've heard and seen, and there's been several that have shut down. And do we want to lose our firehouse and not have?
We all approved a tax increase for them a couple of years ago.
I understand that, but they still have shortfalls. And they still have issues. They're still selling off equipment that they aren't using all the time to be able to make their budgets.
Oh, I understand, but we have a shortfall as well. So
that's one group I'm not sure I want thinking about water conservation.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying that. And granted, it may just be a minimum amount, but I just kind of feel that everybody in town.
It's the principle, not the amount.
It's the principle. Everybody needs to, share equally in, having water. And yes, I understand if there's a fire, yeah, I mean, obviously they don't have to pay for water going out of a hydrant, but I just feel it's the principle of the thing, you know, I mean, if.
And that may be part of our funding requirement, is that every user pays. I guess we can clarify that with the state.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know who isn't currently paying. You know, that's one great example.
Yeah.
Are there others? And if
Yeah,
so,
and-
who
and
are
are
they
there
and what
any-
are the circumstances?
Yeah, are there any water taps in town? Because I know at one time there was one up 4th Street, they had a yard hydrant that wasn't metered. Do we have any taps in town that we know of that aren't?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just asking, just because, you know,
It's a good question.
We represent the citizens, so those are questions that.
Well, I understand that, and that's, and my thing with the firehouse is if I mean, they have the shoestring budget, whatever, we even were to pay that out of the general fund to, as the town supporting the fire station, that way it's showing it's being paid, but still I would rather see that than have them not be able to be there.
Yeah, no, that's a very good idea.
How do we feel about, I'm going back to your example, Justin, about 2,000 gallons for the hybrid model. What if we make it 3? It's covering more people and it's still promoting conservation.
That'd be, it's splitting hairs at that point, doesn't it? I feel like the 4 is, I think that's too many gallons to have just in the base rate, including that.
Sure.
Because I feel like that if we did the 2 or 3, and if we really did the 3, and you could go 3 to 6, and then 6 to 8, and then after that it's.
Yeah, and I'm fine with those higher tiers paying substantially more.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you're using more than 8,000 gallons of water in a month, I'm okay with it being more than $9.25 per 1,000 gallons. That seems like an exorbitant amount of water to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, that does seem like a lot for sure.
8,000 gallons?
Yeah, and I'm
Are you
all
setting up
for-
a fishing pond in your home?
No, I just anecdotal for your consideration. I think last month I used about like 1,600 gallons. I live alone, but I would work really hard to get under 1,000 if I was incentivized to do so.
Well, and that's where I think that 2,000
saying?
would be a good, but I mean the 3 would be fine as well.
Yeah, I know I'm a single guy. I'm just saying, like, if you set a bar for me to reach, and it was reasonable, I'd go after it. I'd start barreling my water off my roof. I'd do everything I could. Just saying.
Well, in the interest of time, I think we've, this was just a conversation. See where you're coming from. We'll get with Jim, and this hybrid 4 was a kind of a late add to the conversation.
Well, it's funny.
I definitely want to explore that.
I literally had questions about the numbers that are in hybrid 4, so I'm really glad you guys put that together.
Yeah. And since the overall average user was at 37.95, that's where we landed on 4,000. But we can, when you look at the difference between the median users and the average users in the 101, you can see that those numbers, you know, may impact a certain number of people, and we haven't had time to really look at what those numbers are. But when you say that the majority of users, those are impacted by those two numbers. So we'll play around with the 2,000 and 3,000 a little bit and see if we can't get some of those questions answered, as well as who all are not paying for. I don't think there's very many. But it wouldn't be. I think every day we work on meters that aren't working quite the way they're supposed to, so we replace them, and you know we're doing a better job of that, or a good job of that. So we'll just keep working on it, and we'll come back and kind of give you this same presentation again with fewer numbers next time, Jim. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, thanks, Jim.
Questions?
Thank you, Jim.
Anything else? I hope I didn't cut anything off. I looked at the clock and
No, I think we're
looked at
good
our
to.
agenda, and
I think we're good to move on. If everybody else is okay with that.
I'll be quiet.
Good questions. Okay, next item on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance number
Thanks, Jim.
1. Series 2023, an ordinance of the Town of Silt, Colorado, granting a cable system franchise to Comcast of Colorado. I will turn this over to Administrator Lyman.
Well, we're getting close on this, but we still would like you to grant one more, well, I won't say that. A continuance.
What, are we negotiating peace in the Middle East
Yeah,
here?
apparently.
What
Yeah.
in the world?
Apparently. Well, we had a change of attorneys in the middle of this conversation, so we hope to have that done next time.
Mr. Chair, I move to continue.
I think we have to do the public hearing part first, don't we?
No.
Not on a continuance.
Okay, sorry.
Continue the reading, the first reading of ordinance number 1, series 2023 to the April 10th, 2023 meeting.
Second.
We have a motion presented by Trustee Brentnall to continue the first reading of ordinance number 1, series 2023, seconded by Trustee Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Consider yourself continued, Jeff.
Okay. April 10th, here we come.
In theory.
Exactly.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Presentation of concept for potential development of property between the Holiday Inn Express and Camp Colorado with a Mr. Doug Olson. And I will turn this over to Planner Chain.
Why don't you get that seat
Please.
there? And Trey, could you help him set up the board, even though it will be up on the screens? He's old school and he wanted to bring the boards. Anyway, Doug is based in the mid-Roaring Fork Valley. He has a contract on that 15-acre parcel. I think the tentative address is 1421 River Frontage Road. And took a site visit with him about 6 months ago. He's continued to do some work, and he'd like to show you what he's been thinking, and then maybe ask the board a couple questions, what they would like to see out there if they have thought of it. Anyway, Doug, take it away.
Thanks. Yeah, my name is Doug Olson. I'm a general contractor and developer. Live in Carbondale. I've been in the valley for 30 years. And we put this property under contract about 8 months ago, 10 months ago. We have not closed on it. We are investigating development potential for the site. In doing so, I hired Nick Aceto from ALA. He used to live, he lives in Maine now, but he's an urban planner, basically. And he kind of did some research with his firm about the highest and best use of the parcel, and we came up with this plan. And it is mixed use, residential, commercial. There are 6 parcels that are roughly 1 acre commercial sites. Then there's the residential piece that is about 5.5 acres. And then there's a part there. This pointer works, doesn't work on TVs, but I can do it here. There's a part right here in the south west portion that's sort of in the floodplain. That would be a park, a common park. There's a river walk along the river. I wasn't sure about the town's long-term plan for the river walk, if there was going to be a continuation of it or a desire to do so, but we did a continuation of it along, and I was, hopeful that one day the town would be wanting to have it lead all the way into downtown. I'm not sure if it would, when it hits 16th Street, if it would go over in front. It would go in front of the Holiday Inn Express, it looks like, and then go over 16th Street, and then either stop there or go over 16th Street, and then continue along with that new project that's going on the east side of 16th Street there. The residential component, we envision 60 units of this plan. They are duplex units. They are three stories high with a shared staircase. That's going to be enclosed. And then there will be decks facing the water, facing the river. We are envisioning a pond here as an amenity for the residential tenants. So we are working with, we haven't engaged anyone yet, but we're planning on working with High Country Engineering. I've had a few talks with Roger Neal, the owner there, and he has worked up a budget for all the engineering work for this particular plan. But we have not actually engaged him yet. So what I was curious is in terms of what the town felt were the desires for the land from the town. What would they like to see? I've had this conversation with Mark a few times about and his thoughts and speaking with the town, and that's partly what this plan is based on. We don't have a lot of commitments yet, nor have we done a lot of investigation yet on different retailers who could potentially take these spots. We do have in this corner here, that would be the northwest corner, we do have a drive-through Subway purveyor, a gentleman named Jim Cagle. He's in Grand Junction. He has like 12 drive-through Subways, and he's very interested in doing one potentially on this site. Just be a lunch and dinner Subway. There's been very preliminary talks with in the west corner, sorry, the northwest corner of the Subway, southwest corner would be, we've had a couple talks with a farm-to-table restaurateur who might be interested in taking that spot. Very preliminary again. And there's on parcel number 3 there, we've had just a little talk with a small grocery store purveyor. So nothing certain again on that. We also had some interest in some other gas stations in town, but we had an interest with a major gas station chain on either 5 or 6 or possibly both. There, and we also had interest with another hotel chain similar to the Holiday Inn Express on either 5 or 6 or both there as well. So that's where the project is. Again, we're just kind of early in the concept stage with all the talk about the water and everything. Maybe there's a not real viable right now anyway until that's done. But we wouldn't be, the soonest we'd close on the property would be April of 2024, where we'd like to start the infrastructure if we could. Then it might be a phased out project over, say, 3 to 5 years. We're not sure. But our plan is to close and then start the infrastructure for at least the first phase April of next year. That's our preliminary thought. So I was just, one of the things I was really curious about is about what does the town of Silt really need? I mean, one thing I heard is a breakfast, lunch, and dinner restaurant. We actually we had a call with the franchise at Denny's. We had one talk with them. They actually might be interested. With national retail here, you see it moving into Rifle. And it's just Silt's kind of on the cusp. I think you're going to see it more and more in the coming years. So we had an interview with IHOP. They said no. We had an interview with marketing. I was telling Mark that we had an interview with like a marketing guy and about Cracker Barrel, which was kind of and he didn't have any. He thought it was kind of doubtful, but he's like, well, you should have the town council write a letter to Cracker Barrel corporate. Maybe they'd come in, and I guess it happened somewhere in the country where somebody did that, and they did it. Sometimes you'll see Cracker Barrel in the middle of nowhere, and just Cracker Barrel is just on a major off-ramp on a major interstate, and they'll go in. So again, we're in the investigation stage, the due diligence stage, and we're very interested and like to hear some feedback from the town about the thoughts on a project like this. So,
what are you thinking for EQRs on that for residents? I didn't catch the
these
number.
These are 2 bedroom, 2 bath, duplex units, 1,000 square feet on average. So, really know exactly. We'd have to do a kind of study for that.
And how many were you thinking?
60.
16.
Yeah, there are 10 buildings and they're duplexes and they're stacked three high, so 6 units per building. There's also in the back, behind the buildings, these are residential garages, single car. And then above them, we were envisioning greenhouses. I don't know, again, the viability of that. We had a farmer, and I'm still talking to a couple groups. Those were aeroponic tower gardens. They're like 12-foot tall, and they're we'd grow vegetables and some fruits, but they're on like 30-day cycles. So I've been talking to a couple farmer groups that might be interested in doing that part of it. So just that above the garage is just not wasted square footage. We use that square footage for something. Also, all solar on top of all the residential rooftops. Be solar. Hopefully on top of some of the commercial as well.
Yeah, I like the concept, and yeah, I'm a big fan of a path along the river.
Has everybody thought with the town about, doing a path along the river? Then and that was my other question, because I heard Mark was talking about the new overpass, or is there a new overpass and new pedestrian bridge that's slated for?
We'd like to have one.
Yeah, we've got some
further
going
west.
on and some stuff for a pedestrian overpass that'll be on more towards that end actually, that comes up into downtown. Park space wise is definitely going to be a big thing that I know that several trustees we have one trustee here who'd love to see a baseball field. Obviously, I don't see one anywhere on this plan.
Underwater.
No, save that for the recreation district.
I think the concern about open space is valid here, and I think about it as it relates to, what's the other development? Is that Rislenda?
Yes.
That's another one where, to your point, Justin, a lot of trustees spoke out about needing a greater portion of the total development to be open space. I am concerned, or park space, I am concerned that this precious resource along the edge of the Colorado is being bought and developed, but not available to the residents of the town of Silt, unless they live in that development.
Well, that was the whole intent of having that path along the river, just so citizens and residents alike could use it.
Yeah, this Riverwalk here would be common Riverwalk for everybody, and then that park space would be a common park space.
And the green space just north of it, you said that the pond feature was for residents.
Sure. The pond feature, yeah, but this space is the park space, and then the Riverwalk here. And there's a sidewalk here and a sidewalk here.
Is that a steep drop to the river along that walking?
No.
No, that's
No, it's real flat pasture.
Yeah. And that pond's not there, that's the design?
Yeah, we'd have to go through the Army Corps and get everything permitted.
And the entire Rislenda team is wondering this for some reason.
Seems like it'd be a good addition to Silt.
The entire Rislenda.
Yeah, I like the ideas of
Yeah, I know.
mixed use and density
I would
near the highway.
I don't want to say though that I think that instead of having that pond feature, if it was just more park space, that would be usable park space of some kind along there would be.
Public access to fishing on the Colorado there.
Yeah, that was going to be my other question, was access from the walkway for things like fishing. Is there going to be a ramp there for a boat launch on that northern border? So
there is a boat launch that we have right there that we've put in just as an envisioning thing. I didn't know, and that would be open to anybody.
Yeah,
but there's just
17.
not a lot of parking to park a lot of just random boats. I know there's a drop-in in the park area, right off 16th, right near here. There's a couple different areas I think to drop in, but I'm not sure about. Do you guys have a list of all the different places where people can drop in a dory or a raft? Yeah, I think that, more for just access along the rivers, there would be only boat area, because there is the boat ramp already over at the Silt Island Dog Park that we have. It's just to the east of the Holiday Express, and then that side of the river that they've we worked with Colorado Watershed and done a lot of work over there. Trey's done a ton of work over at that park, and they've got it set up where it's really accessible for people to do it. And like you said, there wouldn't be, you wouldn't want necessarily people trying to launch boats, at least unless it's from people like that live there that are using it, because the next thing you know, you'd have a nightmare of parking with trailers and stuff around your
that's the
neighborhoods.
thing.
Yeah.
At least that'd be my opinion of what would happen.
Yeah, there wasn't any long-term parking or anything there. Just not a lot of space for that, but.
Yeah, it would be good for the town. We just need to get past our water plant issue first.
Yeah, and I when I had talked to Mark before, I guess he was, and Mike Foster, the listing agent, he's with Caldwell Banker down in Grand Junction, that the guys that had it under contract before were going to do like mini storage or, I think this is something that would bring retail, and what we don't know is what's the most viable form of retail. Is the town of Silt really ready for more national retail, or should it be more downsized to something that would be more viable? So it's hard to say. I mean,
What we'd like to think is there's more traffic up and down from people living down here that are driving up and down. Hopefully more national would.
that would be
If-
great.
I'm of the opinion if they build it, people are going to come to it. It's just getting things to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
think
just
once
don't want to
it's-
see it full of storage units.
Exactly. And so we're really hoping that we can do that, more of a retail, bring more vibrancy and energy to the spot.
You put a Cracker Barrel in, you're gonna need to put a gym in for me then.
Charge Trey rent. Don't charge him for food, charge him rent.
Already have a customer right there.
Is there going to be any sidewalk along the northern edge of the development where River Frontage Road is? Is there a plan for that?
We could do that. There's space, so we haven't done that yet, but we could add that.
Continue
That's
the one from
something
Holiday Inn.
That's
in
what
front
I
of the
was trying to
Holiday Inn,
remember.
something.
There's one up
There
there.
There is one there.
one in front of the Holiday Inn. What you will want to watch though is if them two pads are gas stations or something like that, do you want to put a path across where you're going to have a lot of pedestrian car interface? Or would it be better to make them connect down to that river path and you just go down and walk the river and then come back up?
So drop north-south along the eastern edge of
I think it'd be
20.
important to have it on both sides just because people are going to walk there anyway.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a sidewalk, there's who walk on the grass or along there, at least have it designated.
But they'll be
area.
in the road.
Exactly, which would be much better on the sidewalk than on
Yeah.
the road.
Frontage Road needs a path.
Yeah, in front of the road need a path as
Frontage
well.
road,
I feel like we
for
covered
sure.
that with the Rislender group as well. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Planner Chamber,
Doug,
we
what
covered
other
that topic with the Rislender
projects have you
group.
been in the
we
valley
need
that you've been
sidewalk along
associated
the
with?
northern edge.
Mostly up in, my sweet spot is like custom home builder. So
Oh, okay.
Mainly up in Aspen and
All right.
Carbondale, up Salt. So
So no big projects like this?
commercial. The biggest project I did probably ever was the Motherlode project in Aspen. That was I did the State Street project. That was more of a developer, not as general contractor. I'm a licensed general contractor for light commercial and residential. But this particular project, we probably seek a co-development on the commercial stuff, and I would focus on the residential side of the project. We had to have some people coming in who would be interested in maybe just taking over all the commercial side of it. So if we can get a direction, if you guys feel this is a good plan, we'll probably start to work with High Country on doing the engineering for something similar to this, if you guys think it's viable.
I think it's a great plan. I think maybe present again for the trustees that aren't here and the mayor, because I know they have some strong opinions on this development of Silt too.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
It's the right direction, though. I think mixed
I think
use,
so, too. I think those are
density,
the right
easy
direction.
access to the highway. The pedestrian bridge is initially planned to be at 7th. So that park and ride, that's
To the west,
just to the west, but not too far.
Yeah.
It'd be
That would
further
be a
west,
good
but
selling
it'll
point
lead into
for your
downtown.
team when you're looking at commercial vendors, et cetera.
And public access on the river there.
And I'd be, happy to help if you guys needed any, if you wanted to continue the Riverwalk and continue it, along into town, what kind of master plan does that entail? And I'd be happy to help in accordance with my plan. Is that the thought, to continue the Riverwalk or to some kind of pedestrian bridge into this area to have a walkable space there?
Yeah.
Well, the Riverwalk for sure. That's going from the far east end of town. There's a path on the riverside of Holiday Inn. There's supposed to be one along Camp Colorado. So both of those paths, both the north one at the frontage road and by the river, need to be built.
Need to continue.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. That's a quality of life, I think, not just for the residents, but visitors. I think that factors into
How
economic
cool would that be
development.
for the town to have something that interconnects to town and heads down to the river?
Yes, I'm all for the
That's
Riverwalk,
vision
yeah.
of the future of Silt. That's a good
Yeah,
vision.
that's a big part of the strategic plan.
Yeah.
Is that convenience by foot, by bike, by boat, that they can
Yeah,
get
and
there.
the floodplain does kind of go in here and comes in like this, kind of goes in here. And so being that this space is all in the floodplain as well, maybe there's a way to make this, to enlarge, take this park and enlarge it out, you know, to make go this way towards the overpass. I don't know what that landowner, but it's not real usable space anyway, so it'd be great park space there if we could continue our park along.
It's good.
It's a good start. We appreciate you bringing it.
Thanks so much
Thanks,
for your
Doug. I
time.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and then when I had slotted him on the agenda, I didn't realize that there was a planning commission work session, let alone a water rate discussion. So I thought this was going to be a pretty light agenda, and obviously it wasn't. But anyway.
Fishing made it
That's
so.
all right.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, we appreciate
Seeing
it.
you again.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Award of bid for the 500 block of Main Street and Alley project. I'm going to turn this over to Director Fauner.
Thank you. And this would be Main Street Phase 7, which is the 500 block of Main Street. And the alley block 23, that is the alley behind La Placida Brick House and well, is it still Columbine Liquor? I know it's
Yes,
sold.
it is.
It is? Okay. So anyway, this is the third time this project has went out to bid. We have never got any bids on it. We did receive a bid from K5 Construction for this time. It was not a complete bid. They, like everybody else, was having trouble getting subcontractors to get back to them with pricing. The big ones was concrete and electrical. The electrical bid they did get in, they did share with the town, and it seemed a bit high for what they were doing. So we talked with them, and they were going to reach out to some other contractors. Ken Olson is the owner. I've talked to him numerous times through this. This was the only company that submitted anything. You see the bid in your packet, and I know there's some holes in it, but if you look at the wastewater line main and the bids that they had there, there was only one item missing. And even estimating that in, their bid is right in line with, it actually is lower than what I had the project estimated at. So it's within budget. And I can tell you today, late this afternoon, sorry I didn't get a chance to get it to you, he did get with me on budgetary numbers for doing the concrete on the 500 block of Main Street. So I do have them numbers, and they are aligning with budget. So they're pretty quality numbers for us. And I just, after 3 times and we finally have somebody, I think, and his numbers look pretty good, if you would allow to go ahead and award the bid to him and let me work with him to make sure all the numbers that are missing that come in will fit within the budget and will be solid numbers, and we'll work with him if he's getting, like the electrical one that came in that was really high. We're like, you need to go back and talk to somebody else. And he's like, I thought that was extremely high for what we's doing. So, and I'll answer any questions.
This has that concrete work done on the 500 block of Main Street getting done, at least?
Yes.
Okay, because I know that's something we've been working on, and we promised that business owner along there, and it's been a pain point to get that done. So if nothing else gets accomplished, if that gets done, that would be huge.
Do you have a number for the concrete? Just because my only question is I don't like the incomplete bid because it could possibly set a precedent with future bids. But, you know, I mean, I'm in favor of it. I just, you know, don't necessarily
like I said, I got the concrete numbers late this afternoon.
Okay.
And I wasn't able to get it all put into your packet. But from what I was able to review so far, they're within industry and what concrete's going for right now.
Your comfort level is high then that there won't be any gotchas in terms of pricing?
Yes.
I mean, at this point, it's the only bid we have.
Yes, but you know what I was getting
absolutely.
at. I just
yeah,
don't want,
and that's why I'm asking. It sounds like Trey's, he's got control over the process. He's got control over the pricing.
Yeah.
As long as he's comfortable that there aren't going to be those gotchas at the 11th hour.
Yeah, the only bid that we're waiting on now is electrical.
Okay.
And he went to a couple different contractors to get a different bid than the one he received.
And it sounds like you're acting as a reality check on those numbers to say, this is out of line, go back. So we've got some gatekeeping mechanism here to keep those gotchas from happening.
Yeah,
that gives me a lot of comfort.
And like I said, I'm not against it. I'm for it.
No,
That's my one concern is I don't want that to possibly start something.
And it won't, because hopefully the majority of the time we'll get more than one bid. But you know, after three go arounds and not getting anything except for this, trying to, you know, this project's been budgeted for the last 3 years, and we just haven't got anybody to step up and say, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to get it done finally.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And nailing down prices at this industry and market is crazy, you know?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was actually excited when I saw this on the agenda. I was like, we got a bid. Outstanding. That's progress.
Yeah.
Take that monkey off Trey's back. And replace it with another one.
Got to get it done, though.
The water plant gorilla.
A bigger one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say the water plant gorilla. Yeah,
Freeing up your list. I'm okay with it.
So this is an action item.
Yes, it is.
Somebody.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to award the bid for the 500 block of Main Street and Alley project to
K5 Construction.
K5 Construction of Rifle, Colorado.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Clausen to award the bid for the 500 block of Main Street and Alley project to K5 Construction, seconded by Trustee Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
those opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
And when we get official numbers, I will bring that back to you. As, like I said, I got the concrete ones. When we get the electrical ones, I'll give you a full bid schedule.
Did you give me a short list of electricians you know who are viable?
We went down through a list of who he contacted, and we threw out some that he hadn't contacted that he might want to try.
Nice.
Because I can't recommend anybody, so
Fair point.
Well, thank you, Director Fund.
That would be collusion, right?
Yes.
Can't have that. Okay, we have inserted as the next item on the agenda the introduction of Silt Energy Development LLC. I will turn this over to Administrator
That
Leonard.
sounds like a good title for this topic, and I need to make sure that we have our participants zooming in.
It does look like all of them are here.
Let's ask Joe Carpenter to identify those who, actually, Amy, you may have that list, correct?
I do.
Okay. So those, I think you could probably allow them to present.
Do you want them to do it? Do you want Joe to present how?
let's ask Joe who would be most appropriate to present then.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The individuals representing the buyers that we have on the call here or on Zoom are Mr. Doherty, Robert Doherty, he's on, Rob Key, Mr. Switzer, Bob Switzer, and Bob White. And okay, you've got the presentation they provided. I think I will defer to the applicants or to the prospective buyers as to who they would like to present their PowerPoint presentations.
I have made all 4 of them co-hosts, so they're able to mute and unmute themselves at leisure.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I believe we have 4 Roberts on the line and plus Lloyd. So we don't mean to confuse you. We don't mean to confuse you right out of the gate. So this is Bob Schweitzer. I'm the CEO of Astera. Silt Energy Development is a special purpose vehicle LLC that we've created in California for purposes of what we're doing in the area. And we've made an offer, full price offer on the property at 155 River Frontage Road, and been dealing with Joe Carpenter on it. And so what we want to do tonight is let you know what we think we want to do with the property, so that you can consider the acceptance. So Bob White, do you want to go through the presentation?
Sure. Hi, I'm Bob White. What we wanted to do, as you can see, is we have Silt Alternative Fuel Station. What we want to have is EV charging stations, a hydrogen charging station, and a CNG fuel pump, I should say. So on our station, what we want to have is 8 of the 150 kW DC fast chargers. We'll have 2, which is level 4, basically 380 kW DC fast chargers. So the difference is the first one will do about a 30-minute charge. The second one can do a car charge in about 15 minutes or 10 minutes. We want to also add 4 natural gas fuel pumps, CNG, and 4 hydrogen fuel pumps. As we're seeing in California, but throughout Europe and some of Asia, hydrogen is a new way of going for a lot of cars. Additionally, in the future, we will have a pre-wired 12 380 kW DC fast chargers. On this property, we'll have at least 1, maybe 2, 3.5 megawatt battery DC chargers. But the batteries for them. What this will do is store the batteries, so we're not taking all the load at one time off of the power grid. All of our parking and charging areas will be covered by solar ports, carports. So this way, while you're charging, if it's raining, snowing, what have you, you're still good. You can get out of your car and not get wet. We're looking at a green space for walking the dog areas, and that would be to the west side of, which you'll see down below, the west side of the property line. The parking lot will be made from what we call earthcrete, which is a green carbon negative cement, which is a cement that we actually own. What happens is when we pour the cement, 10% of the weight of the cement comes from CO2 out of the air as it cures. So it's a carbon negative cement. We're doing a lot of that over in Saudi Arabia right now. And then at the same token, we'll have about 490, let's call it 500 kW of solar installed on the property through the carports and the rooftop of our station. So if you can go down the next one, okay. So what does this do for Silt? We'll be employing between 8 to 12 employees. We provide a tax income, provide a destination stop in Silt for all your EV chargers and that, which we know Silt is a good position between Grand Junction and Colorado for recharging. We'll be providing a first-of-a-kind alternative fuel station, hopefully increase the staying at the hotels. We'll help meet the clean energy goals for Silt, Garfield, and the state of Colorado by our CMET and our charging stations. the fast charging infrastructure deployed along the highway corridor mobility through the region. We're working with Navi now on that, and this is one of the projects we're working with them on. So if you can change that one more screen. Okay, so what we're looking at is on this one here is our upscale bodega, which is we're hoping to have this all operational by January 30th of next year. And on this one, what we're looking at is your higher class people coming in, and it means that we want clean. Our main thing is very clean bathrooms for people. Fresh cafe, coffee, pastries, deli, all fresh foods, salads, what have you. But our main thing is in here is very clean bathrooms. Because I know when I travel, we like to, if a place has clean bathrooms, we like stop there. If they don't, we just keep going to the next place. And then we have a lounge area. So while your car is being charged, you can relax, have a Wi-Fi hotspot, etc., and go from there. Our next screen, okay. So this is kind of layout of the property here. If you notice to the right, our left-hand side, you see what we call our green area dog walk. So as people pull in, or as they're in the car, or not in the car, you have a dog walk there, green area, which will be shaded area, trees, some table and chairs, what have you, and like I say, a dog walk for them. In the blue areas, those there are solar carports. The very top one, that one there will be a carport for our CNG and for the hydrogen pump stations. The bottom one to the left-hand side, that one there will be a parking station for now, but will be plumbed to have electricity to go to more EV chargers as we need them. Then the orange section in the middle, that would be our building. Behind the building, between us and Holiday Inn Express, will be for our deliveries and what have you through traffic. To the two little blue ones in front would be carports. That would be just for regular parking. To the right side would be our EV chargers. The EV chargers, we have 8 of them right there right now. And once again, if you notice, everything's a nice safe distance away from the CNG or hydrogen charging areas or pumping stations. And then the very far right side is our battery storage area. That there will team up with a company called STEM, which has done a lot of work for Holy Cross in the Garfield County. So it's a very good partner for us. Here's some of our partners, which must be STEM, Carbon Meta Green Building Technologies. That's the company that has the patents and the rights for Earthcrete, which I was explaining a little bit about, that's over in Saudi Arabia. Chint Power Systems, EV Loop, which is a very EV charger company. It's a very good EV charger company that is in Navi, doing a lot with work with them. Excuse me. And then our solar panels, we use VSUN, which is a tier 1. EarthTech Solar Salvum Corp, which is them and Carbon Meta have the rights to the Earthcrete. Power Steel Solar Frames, Solar Over, which is American-made solar panels also. Urban Solar Utility, which is a solar company that we work with for on microgrid systems. Aero Compact is a ground mount systems. Green Tech is one of the largest companies in the United States for selling electrical supplies to just not solar companies, but electrical period. The Luna Solar, which is for batteries, and Gen batteries.
Thanks, Bob. Rob Key, unless there are immediate questions, if we have a little bit of time, Rob Key, can you tell everyone what we're doing already in the state of Colorado with the Department of Energy?
Yeah, so along with you heard Bob mention NEVI, which is the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure program that's going across the United States. Colorado has its own Colorado Energy Office, and you guys have the you have a specific DC fast charging plaza grant program that's out now. In fact, the RFA just came out a couple weeks ago for the latest round of funding. So we plan to, and I've been talking with the gentleman at CEO at Colorado Energy Office about this RFA and about our plans. And so we plan to submit for the DCFC Plaza grant as part of this project that we hope to do here in Silt. I think it actually, and he agreed, would be a strong contender for grant money, given the fact that the majority of DC fast charging plazas in Colorado right now are focused on metropolitan areas. However, Colorado, as well as the United States, wants to see DC fast charging plazas along interstate corridors that don't necessarily fall in metropolitan areas. So while you have a bunch of people vying for grant program money in the Denver metropolitan area, subsequently the interstates that come through Silt and go to, these different directions that actually provide arteries through the state and to the resorts and everything. I mean, you guys know where you sit. Those are underutilized areas that would absolutely benefit from this and have already been identified. So much so that even within the grant program, there's additional funds or there's a higher percentage rate based on the rural aspect of it. But essentially what we're trying to, along with this, is to create kind of like the fueling station of the future, I think. Everybody sees the standard gas station model, but I think we can all agree that right now, the federal government as well as the state governments are all looking at the need for electric vehicle infrastructure. American Auto and the other auto manufacturers have come on board basically saying they're going to switch producing over the next 10 years to essentially just produce electric vehicles. And that leaves us all in a serious position given the fact that we don't have a charging infrastructure for it. So everybody's looking to, fill this void, and we're looking to help with that. And, and our idea is essentially a clean, sleek, comfortable experience to charge an EV or charge your hydrogen vehicle or charge your truck that runs on natural gas, which I grew up in New Mexico, and I know in the Rocky Mountains that I know people that have been driving natural gas vehicles for, 50, 60 years. So that's something that's already out there. But, a high-end, comfortable experience, clean bathrooms like Bob mentioned, bright. We don't want a lot of the electric vehicle charging stations that are out there right now sit in quiet corners and dark, neighborhoods. And let's face it, if you're coming down from the resorts and you're on your way to Grand Junction, or even if you live in the town of Silt and you bought yourself an EV charger and are not charging at home because you live in an apartment or something, it's uncomfortable and it's not a great experience to have to go sit in some dark corner or some place that doesn't have any sort of amenities. And the DCFC Plaza grant programs have identified this issue, and that's a big part of what they're focused on is comfortable, clean, and 24/7 amenities, and that's what we're looking to create here.
So just the last thing before I open up for questions is we sat through Mr. Olson's presentation, and this would seem to complement what he has in his plans right next door.
Yeah, I would agree.
So unless there's something else from the group, Bob Doherty or Lloyd, we can open up to questions.
I have a question, but
Yeah, I have questions.
Please, Sam.
You guys go first.
Okay. I came across an article from Access Wire on this project, and it seems in this article that it's more of a solar farm 20,000 solar panels, 40,000 earthcrete, pavers, battery source, backup. Where's that project taking place at? Is that a different project than this, or?
It is. It is. The reason that we found out about this property is that in our due diligence with respect to our other project, which is across the river, with Charles Barr at Springborn Organic, we have a 15 megawatt installation that we're planning. And so we ran into this lot. We thought that it fits within our budget, in our phase 1 budget, and it would be a good complement. So they're 2 separate projects. Yes, sir.
Will you be interconnecting to there to get the power for the chargers at your facility, or will you be using your own rooftop solar on site?
We would be using rooftop solar on site, but we're looking at interconnecting between the 2 projects if possible.
Correct.
And then with hydrogen on site, I know putting fuel tanks in the ground for oil, or gas and diesel is there's a extensive process through the government you have to go through. With hydrogen, what's that like? Because I mean, this project's happening fast. You're talking January 2024 to be already lights on.
That's correct. I think that the way we would approach this is that the retail, the restaurant component, and the solar component would come first, and we would probably pull the hydrogen in afterwards. I'm not sure we'd be done by January with that component. But we would, of course, in our applications for the land use and the building permits, we would have obviously our safety plan and guidance for the town, so that it is in compliance with what the U.S. Department of Energy in 2010 has told everyone they have to comply with. So it's not like dropping a gasoline station in there at all. I don't know, Bob Doherty, do you have any comments on that, or Roy?
Yeah. So on hydrogen storage, there are 2 ways for us to consider, and we're going to weigh both of them. One is you can actually store the hydrogen in compressed cylinders, and there's a certain amount of energy that goes into that. And the safety factors are just as you pointed out. You have to make sure that you containerize the hydrogen so that it cannot just result in multiple large accidents. There are also a way to use hydrogen cells, so you can actually store it that way, and then you can basically transport the hydrogen in cells, which is non-flammable, and then the hydrogen cells plug into the outlet area, if you will. So it uses, some of these use a carbon, it's almost like a carbon nanotube kind of structure on the inside, so the hydrogen is very well dispersed into these very small pores, so it's not flammable.
Bob Doherty, any comments?
I was just going to say it's hydrogen cell technology, but Lloyd already covered that, so.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know if that answered your question, but that's what we're planning.
Yep, did.
I like it conceptually. I mean, diversification of fuel sources.
Yeah.
If it's right next to another big development that's going in, it may be a value add for that development if those people own
It also
electric
tie into the
cars.
Resplendent stuff that's going on possibly.
sure.
It would be huge
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that development. I like the idea of the little restroom cafe type thing going on, the restaurant, little cafe thing going on over there.
Right.
Bodegas, grab salads, that kind of stuff. Be neat. And then with the river walk and people walking along down there, they can just pop up and would visit
Yeah,
possibly.
if your car's charging for 30 minutes, now you've got a beautiful walk to take Got some dining.
Exactly.
There is an
Exactly.
integrative aspect to it that I like, and I like the idea that it's not just another gas station.
You can go fishing.
I feel like we've got enough of those.
Open up a fly fishing, a fly rod rental shop.
Glad you guys are thinking about that.
We can do that. We can do
Short-term
that.
rental.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I had brought up the idea of selling bait or selling flies or things of that, quick rigs that people can just walk right out the back.
You've got your salesman is sitting right here. He's ready.
Yeah, electric vehicles will never be viable unless you have the infrastructure for them.
Correct.
And the usage is going to go up. It just is. As you mentioned earlier, manufacturers are making more. People are buying more. We're going to need more chargers. I think it's a brilliant idea, and the timing's right.
So is there do we get a sales tax on charging and hydrogen and gas?
Is there a sales tax?
Yeah. For the town?
There should be, yes.
I think that's a question.
That's a question for Amy.
Amy.
If anything, it would probably be included in what we get from the highway users tax allotment that the state gives us, and that would be per street mile that we have in the town of Silt. We don't collect sales tax on fuel.
So it'd be a low sales tax producer for the town.
Well, I wouldn't agree with that entirely, only because they're going to have a bodega convenience store type thing, which will have sales of food and chips and beverages and things of that nature. Is this going to be a 24-hour lounge?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That was my one question, whether it was 24 hours or not.
24/7.
Do you guys, does Colorado tax on gas? Do you have a gas tax?
Yeah.
Or
But
no?
yes, but it goes to the state, and then the state disseminates it according to the number of miles of street and roads that you have in your jurisdiction.
Gotcha. Yeah, because we live in California, and right now everybody is essentially incentivizing electric vehicle travel, right, and taxing gas as much as they can. But we're going to watch, I'm sure, over the next decade. That's going to it's going to turn, right? Once EV adoption gets to a certain point, then I'm sure everybody's going to switch over and start taxing EV when it becomes the one that's dominant on the road, and we're a ways off from that. But when that happens, I'm sure there will be an EV tax versus an EV incentive. So
I have another question just because I'm nosy. How many of you drive EVs?
I drive a hybrid.
I
drive a hybrid, but not an EV.
And
there is tax exactly.
I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and we drive pickup trucks. So,
well,
I'm just curious.
Well, it turns out the most powerful pickup truck right now is an EV now.
The only problem is you can't find them around here, so it's.
That's right.
You can't find them around here either. I mean, that's the other thing. It's tough to find an EV, and where we live, they sell out. They sell in a day. A used one will sell in a day, and sometimes in a couple hours. It's crazy what's going on right now with the car thing. But yeah. Good question.
Do we have a
This
copy
would
of the
only
slide
be
deck?
for smaller vehicles. I mean, we'd never see a Tesla semi parked in there, would we?
Actually, we could. That's why we want to have the 380 kW is because that's the reason there's the two 380s to start is for the idea of the electric semis. Those are going to start rolling through, and we want to have a station that can provide electricity, that can provide a charge for those kind of vehicles as well. And we've got the space there to do it.
Oh,
Or your electric buses. The electric buses that you may have with Citywise or what have you.
Right. Yeah, like fleet charging. Absolutely.
The other thing too is that Volvo and Mack, who makes the Mack trucks, the guys in Washington State. Anyway, they're moving to
international.
International. So they're moving to hydrogen. So it's getting clear that the heavy vehicles are going to move to hydrogen, and the lighter vehicles are more likely going to move to electric. I think also there's an opportunity, I know it's going to happen, is there's going to be hybrid hydrogen electric for those sort of mid-sized truck kind of things where you want to have the extra mileage. You don't want to take a chance with just electric. So I think over the next 20 years, it's going to be the two technologies competing with each other. And at the end of the day, they're going to have the hybrid vehicles.
So you're going to have 24 kilowatt on the roofs. How much electricity are you going to have to subsidize and where from?
We will be subsidizing that from our solar field that we'll be putting in at the farm.
Exactly.
Is what we're looking at doing. We're going to have batteries both at the station and on the farm. And like I say, we're looking at pulling power from one position to the other position to feed ourselves.
And how big is the farm?
The farm is approximately 14.1 megawatt. However, the farm itself will use 3.5 megawatt, and if they double in size, like Charles wants to, they can go up to 7 megawatt. So we'll still have over 7 megawatt of power for ourselves. And then, we still have to be on the grid, don't get me wrong, in case, bad times or what have you. So we'll be pulling power from the grid also. And that's with Holy Cross.
So
actually, excuse me, it's actually with Excel on that piece of property.
So you're not going to you're not selling any of your power then from your farm outsourced to the community. It's just going back into your investments.
No, that's not the case. We are in our plans with the larger installation, meaning to include the community. Yes.
Because in this article I read, it says to reduce costs, and I kind of took it as reducing costs to the community. I envisioned that was a solar farm you're putting in over there, and that electricity was going into the community and trying to stable a low cost source of electricity to the homeowners. But
that is correct, sir. Because our primary goal is just that. With the larger installation, we found the property and we added to the plans. And so there's no question that our intent and what we're going to do here with the large installation is to benefit the community. So that's a for sure.
So you'd be your own electric company, or would you just go through XL?
We would just probably go through the utility and not be deemed a micro grid.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. We can get, Jeff, you said we can get a copy of that presentation deck?
Yes.
With those details?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
I'm looking for it now.
Well, thank you.
Wait, I have one more question. Why Silt? Why'd you guys pick Silt for the farm and then for this project?
Well, my son goes to Colorado Mesa and Grand Junction. I've fallen in love with Colorado. And in one of my younger years, I did ski quite a bit up in the area. And Bob White and I were just it's true, we were on a road trip and we went and saw Charles. And it went from there, and we fell in love with this area and decided we thought this was a great place to do what we're doing.
Yeah, correct. I agree, for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your time and your presentation. We look forward to hearing more about it as the project moves forward.
Great, thanks.
I have one more question.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
on
yes,
the battery farm, does that require some sort of fire suppression?
Actually, what we're looking at doing is using a salt-based battery. So it's a salt silicate battery. So it's not going to be a lithium ion, which, as we all seen, in the hurricanes and all the problems with the fires, with the Teslas and what have you. This battery cannot catch on fire because it's a salt-based battery. And being a salt-based, salt doesn't catch on fire. You put salt to put fires out. So our batteries are very, very safe.
Okay, thank you.
I got one more question. So what's the name of the project? What's this referred to as?
Well, we're calling it our Silt Energy Development Project. That's our LLC in Colorado. That is the creator of the installation. So we would just refer to it to Silt Energy Development.
Okay. Sounds good.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the February 2023 financial report, and I will turn this over to Treasurer Tucker.
Thank you very much. So 16% of the year has elapsed. You can see that we are ahead in sales tax, more than 30,000 above what we did last year at this time. We are 22% higher than we were at this time last year. And overall, we are 21.4% higher than what for our budgeted revenues in the sales tax. We're at almost 22% in our use tax. We're right on budget with trash service fees, water service fees, wastewater fees, and irrigation fees. We're still a little low on our Silt Housing Authority revenues. They seem to be a month behind, sometimes 2 months behind before we get our rent revenues from them. Other than that, we're doing pretty good. We're on track with most of our funds as far as our revenues, and we are below our expenses as far as the percentage for the time of year that has elapsed. And we did initiate the transfer of that $3 million this past Friday. So hopefully when I do April's financials in May, you will see that difference in the interest income that we'll see for that first time. And I'll answer any questions you may have.
Any numbers you're concerned about?
As far as revenues go?
Yes.
Just the senior housing and them being behind.
But that sounds pretty common.
For the past couple of years it has. I think they have new people there. When I was first here, we got it, it was the last day of the month, but we religiously got it within that same calendar month that they received the funds. But it just hasn't been that way for probably the last 3 years.
Have we reached out to them at all to try and correct the timing?
Yes.
And they just ignored you? How dare they?
Well, I wouldn't say ignore, but like the check sometimes isn't even written until the 27th of the month, and then they have people that need to sign like we do. We've got a 2-signature requirement, and they do as well. And then they don't mail it to us, they drop it off. So we're at the mercy of somebody driving here and putting it in the night drop box most of the time.
Have they not heard of direct deposit?
Maybe I could suggest that to them. I don't know if they would have that. They might be able to do ACH. I can call them and request that.
Yeah, because we don't want to have to institute late fees or anything like that to try and encourage payment. But, I mean, if they could ACH it, that would certainly facilitate getting it done quicker.
$28 million late fee?
A water plant late fee?
Yeah.
One time. One time. That's all it takes. And then Amy will go over there and collect personally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big bag.
And then disappear.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the only question I had. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
No, thank you, Amy.
No, thank you,
Good job.
Treasurer Tucker.
All right. Next item on the agenda, administrator and staff comments. Now we'll turn this over to Administrator Lehman.
Well, as usual, we try to include a lot of information from our newsletter and other things. I don't have anything I want to highlight there. You're going to be hearing some more. You may have noticed that last week Governor Polis announced some legislation. We just heard about it at the end of last week from the Colorado Municipal League about this affordable housing initiative that they have going. CML is concerned that the precedent might be alarming for municipalities because it seems to usurp some of the ability we have to operate under home rule regarding things like land use planning, where, for example, on a lot that would be identified for say a single family home, the state would require us to allow things like duplexes, triplexes, maybe even tiny homes. I mean, the legislation is way up in the air, and there's a lot of conversation, and there's a lot of people running around with their hair on fire right now. I don't want to add to that, but I did want to just put it out in front of you so you can go on and maybe do your own research if you like. But I didn't want you to think we weren't paying attention, because we do. We have heard about it from CML. I'm actually meeting with some other town administrators in the area tomorrow. We're going to sit down and talk about that and a variety of other things. But I don't think there's anything to be alarmed about or to cheer if you're, if you might be in that regard, because I think there's just a lot of open conversation yet to happen on that. And that would be all I have.
Those things always get worked out in committee.
They do, and I don't. It's certainly not cleared committee. There's a month left in the legislative session. I think there's a lot of people talking about it now. So,
you have 3 emails from CMO in the last week or so.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is part of the process.
Right.
These things always get whittled down.
Yep. And AG&C, we've heard from them too.
Yep.
They employ a lobbyist on our behalf, and so they, to my knowledge, they haven't taken a position yet. CML is opposed at this point, but they're just all collecting information, trying to understand what's in it. I think it's a 105-page bill, so there's a lot of meat in there they're still working on.
Some light reading.
And probably a lot of fluff is what's in there,
Yeah.
mostly.
A lot of something.
Yeah. You guys know my opinion on the state meddling with with their affairs.
And just one thing, I'll know more next Wednesday, but it sounds like Colorado Rural Water Association, our wastewater plant, is going to receive an award from them.
Nice. Really?
So I was going to the conference anyway for classes, Casey and I. So we'll be over there next week, and the banquet's Wednesday night when they will present the award. So at the next board meeting, I'll have the finer details of what it was for.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Congratulations in advance.
Mm-hmm. Make sure you take your good hat.
Yes.
That is a good hat.
Yeah, you don't want to see my old hat.
Next item on the agenda, updates from the board comments, and I will start with Trustee Clausen.
All right. I have a couple comments. I know time, I'll try to keep it short. Flying Eagles soccer field, I know you guys have done a lot of improvements on there, but is there thought of the north end of the park where the parking lot is, where you have the drainage coming through? Is there any thought of piping that and filling that all in? Just, be easier to maintain and maybe get another parking space in there or something?
We haven't thought of that, but that water flowing through there is part of the Giancana ditch, which we have water rights to. We have thought about trying to catch that water and use it to help water that park. So we could look at that. If we do that, we could probably fill that in when we put some kind of containment basin in there, if we go that route, and then just let it overflow into the pipe that is already under that field.
Okay.
And something of that nature.
All right. Yeah, no, I was just thinking of some way to, kind of tidy that up. So, and then the only thing, during budget, there was talk about an admin vehicle. I mean, is there an admin vehicle, or do to go get mail and stuff in meetings, or do they all have to use personal vehicles?
I don't think I guess I should ask Sheila or Amy. We had one, an really old car, but I don't think we've replaced it.
No, we have not replaced an admin vehicle. The The one we had was that hybrid, that it wasn't getting used enough and the battery kept dying on it. The only other vehicle we have my vehicle here at Town Hall, and then the one that Nicole uses in recreation and the building.
Right.
Or the two vehicles at Town Hall.
Did you get?
And isn't the recreation one kind of slipping gears?
That I don't recall. I know that there's a
mean the
problem with it, but I don't
1970
remember which
Ford
one it
pickup?
was.
That could be user error.
Yeah, that could be.
Not on
I
an
don't
automatic.
think Nicole makes errors.
I didn't know you meant her.
I was just curious because we were getting some new police vehicles and some new public works vehicles. Didn't know if there's something for them.
We've talked about it, but we haven't really moved towards
We haven't done
anything
it.
at
I
the
don't even know
moment.
if did we end up putting it in the budget, Amy?
It's on the 5-year plan, and don't let me lie to you. I think it's 2025, 24, 25.
I think it was 24 next year, but I could be wrong.
Give me a minute.
Have you got the other vehicles?
The new work trucks, one is in Junction right now, and they were hoping to call me this week to go pick it up.
2025 is where we have it in our 5-year capital plan.
The second one, they're expecting to be here in April. It was unusual. I got the email that both trucks were built, but one of them made the train out and the other one stayed at the factory. So, and then the third one we won't get until like November after. That's dependent on the grant that will be applied for in August, October. I got it on my calendar when I have to have that turned in by, but I believe it's October.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you, staff, for all the good work you've been doing.
Trustee Brennan?
Oh, we should tell you, we do have 2 new police cars.
Yeah, I've seen those, yeah.
So we have 2 new police, I see Mike is on there, but we have, Mike, you want to talk about that briefly?
He muted himself.
Oh.
Try again.
Hey.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay. We have got 2 of the new patrol cars in. One is up, the place being equipped. We're waiting until it's done. Then we'll take the other one in to have it equipped. And then we're waiting. We've got the third one in. And we're waiting for see if we get the grant money to get the third one equipped.
Excellent.
That's great.
Thanks, Mike.
Take 2.
There we go.
Trustee Brennan.
Quick, how was the turnout for the DMV thing that was here?
Well, I think it was good. I didn't get over there, but Sheila said that we had a really good turnout.
It was fantastic.
Good deal. Yeah, that was just something new that we had going on. The DMV to go, they come out and they were here in Silt last Wednesday, and sounds like they're coming again next month. So we'll just keep an eye on that. If you got to get your license renewed or something, it's much easier to come down here to Town Hall and have them done than go deal with all the lines and everything else over there.
Yeah, she saw 30 people and was able to
She
24 documents or something.
Yeah, she sent me an email saying that she served about 25 people and she was able to do documents for 23 of the 25.
Wow, that's great.
Oh, good.
It was a great turnout. She said that was like one of the best turnouts she's ever had for first time.
Nice.
I guess she'll come back.
She'll be back.
I need to see her next month.
And then other than that, yeah, we just have the Easter egg hunts coming up next month on April 8th. For Easter, everybody get out and do that. It's a lot of fun usually. It's my birthday, so maybe I'll swing by and say hi to everybody.
Is that a plug for yourself to get gifts?
Yeah.
Are you ready to Easter Bunny?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll stop snowing by then.
Probably not.
It's when it snows the most. Nothing here.
Trustee Flores.
Nothing here. Good.
For me, the vaccine bus, I got to swing by there last week and get my latest COVID vaccine because I was late. So much appreciation for them for coming to me because I apparently can't find the time to go to them. And then just thanks everyone for your patience while we muddled through this tonight. I know it sounded like amateur hour a couple of times, but I appreciate your patience. And I don't have the documentation to move into executive session. So if anybody has that handy, that would be delightful.
It's in the drawer over by where the mayor
I just handed
sits.
it to him. There's this too. I don't know if you need that or not.
Oh, Lord.
Some glasses in there too. You those?
I have to study for this now? I thought it was just a gavel. Where's Mayor Regal? No, but there's a part I have to read beforehand, right? And where is that right here? No, that's that.
There's that highlighted one I usually see him pulling out and using. Is that it?
That's after.
Maybe a before and then after?
No, that's the end. There should be before open. That's after close. That's at the end.
At the beginning.
I don't like the look Sheila's giving us.
It's rather entertaining.
If anybody's having trouble falling asleep,
That's all it's in there.
This is the one that you'll need to get someone to make a motion.
Yeah, you need to make a motion to go into an executive session.
And then read that one.
Well, I can do that part, and then you can read what we need to read. So I'll make a, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to go to an executive session.
I'll second.
We have to say the reason.
Yes. And that's listed right there on the agenda.
Okay. Motion has been made by Trustee Brentnall and seconded by Trustee Clausen to go into executive session to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of any real, personal, or other property interest under CRS Section 24-6-4024A, 1555 River Frontage Road. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now we're going to take a quick break while we set up all of the appropriate
The
equipment.
Zoom stuff and whatnot, yeah.
There it is. Okay, the time is now 10:25 and the executive session has concluded. No formal action was taken in the executive session. The participants in the executive session were, no one entered the executive session and no one left the executive session. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, the next agenda item is a move to extend the meeting beyond the 10 p.m. deadline.
Well said.
Second.
I can't make
I know. All right, I'll make a motion to extend the meeting beyond the 10 o'clock time frame.
I reluctantly second.
A motion was made by Trustee Clausen to extend our meeting beyond the 10 p.m. deadline, seconded by Trustee Brentnall. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Now I'll make a motion to adjourn.
No,
Don't we
we
have
have
to-
to make a
Oh,
motion.
dang it. All right, go.
All these rules. So next item on the agenda
Yeah,
is,
I don't think you need to vote, right, Sheila? I think it's.
What am I
it's just,
missing?
give
No,
us-
you're just getting direction
give-
from
Give
them.
us some direction for
Oh, okay,
pursuing
gotcha.
the real estate contract.
but we don't do it as a motion.
Right. Yeah, so the board considered the offer, the real estate offer, and so I think what you as a board need to do now is to let staff know how we should proceed with the offer. Are you prepared to?
Based on our discussions during, I mean, we just felt like that we feel like accepting the full price offer, with conditions to ensure that there's the things that we've looked for in place, asking that the completion of the sale was based off of the
site plan approval.
the site plan agreement, and what was the other thing?
Building permit.
Building
issuance
permits
and building permit.
and whatnot.
As a condition of closing.
Yep.
That sounds good.
Is that everything you need, Jeff?
I think so.
Sheila, that covers it?
It works for me.
And I
Mr.
should
Chair,
tell
make-
you
That's
that
all that matters.
We have got the wheels in motion we have to publish 10 days ahead of time on this sale. Sheila got the notice, got the wheels moving on that, so we'll be noticing within that 10 days. And so we'll bring this back to you at the next meeting, and we'll get to talk about it again.
Sounds good.
Great. All right, next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Brittenell to adjourn, seconded by trustee Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I didn't hear anybody.
Motion passes unanimously. Good night, everyone.
Great job there.